The Minnesota Timberwolves went on the road and got a big game 3 win over the Golden State Warriors today, 102-97. Andrew, what were your first thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, the Warriors did what they needed to do to be able to win a game without Stephen Curry, but it just wasn't enough. Julius Randle with a triple-double, Anthony Edwards stepping up big for the Timberwolves in the second half. They were just too much for the Warriors in the end.
Yeah, the Timberwolves right now look like they have more scoring. We talked about this at the end of game 1 with Steph Curry going out, and then in game 2, um, Anthony Edwards came on in the second half. Julius Randle, as you mentioned, with the triple double. When Julius Randle's getting it going, this Timberwolves team is going to be hard to beat, and it'll be even tougher for the Golden State Warriors to do that without Steph Curry. Let's take a look at their side of things. Jimmy Butler did almost all that he could have. Jonathan Kuminga was a major bright spot off the bench, but outside of that, maybe not as much as you'd hope. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just shocking to see how much the Stephen Curry injury affects everything on the offensive side of the ball for the Warriors. He does so much for them offensively to the point where they don't really have a point guard without Stephen Curry in the game. So they have to do all these different rotations. Trace Jackson Davis, we were talking about it before we even got on here. It felt like won the audition of the 14 players that Steve Kerr played in game 2. And he was able to get the start today, but only played 11 minutes. The fact that they're still trying to figure out their rotations in the playoffs because of the fact that Steph Curry isn't playing is a serious issue, especially on a team that is as dangerous as the Timberwolves. Feels like the Timberwolves are playing their C to C plus game, and they're still being able to pull out these games, which is unfortunate because this Warriors offense just looks so disjointed at times.
Yeah, I'm really confused right now with what is going on with this rotation because I feel like no matter how big of a domino uh, there should be to fall, like Steph Curry, there in no and there's no reason for the rotation to get this messed up right now. Obviously, Jonathan Kuminga was in the doghouse this season. That was well documented and everything of that sorts. But with Trace Jackson Davis going into the starting lineup and then just no production from Pods, I'm starting to question everything. I'm glad. I wanted to bring up Pods really quick. He was 1 of 10 today. What is going on with that? They need something from the backcourt to help Jimmy Butler as well. What were your
Yeah,
thoughts?
no. I mean, Braden Pajemski has like he can score on offense, but that isn't his like primary role. He can grab rebounds and he's really good on defense. He had that like kind of like almost no look steal in this game, and he is like one of their better perimeter defenders. And I mean, that's been the calling card for Golden State, especially since Jimmy Butler has joined this team as one of the better defensive NBA teams since he's gotten there. But I mean, just when they're looking for scores, they can't find any, and especially in the backcourt now with Brandon Pajemski going 1 for 10 in this game and just overall not having a very good series. And if Buddy Hield isn't lighting it up from 3, which he can be streaky even in games where he'll light it up for a quarter or 2 at a time and then just go completely cold for another quarter or 2, it's just they're really struggling to find offense. When you look up and down this lineup between Draymond Green, like not being a real offensive weapon, he can score, but does he do it consistently? Not really. Trace Jackson Davis having his moments, but not always shining. He wasn't even a part of the lineup until really last game. And then like there's when you look up and down, like Kevon Looney, like is he going to give you a lot of offensive like production? Probably not. Gary Payton is more of a defensive guy, so you really need Kuminga and Jimmy Butler to step up, and they did, and it just still wasn't enough.
Yeah, Moses Moody, somebody that this Golden State Warriors team has seen throughout the year. Quentin Post as well. They didn't even play pretty much in this game. So he might potentially toy with this in game 4. We'll definitely have to. I think that'll definitely be something to watch. And maybe we shouldn't say backcourt. We should just say kind of the rotation when we're talking about pods, scoring, and everything like that. Obviously, this Warriors team is very small. Draymond Green ended up fouling out with what? It was like 4 minutes left or something like that,
Yeah.
trying to block a dunk attempt. So he was obviously in foul trouble as the game went on. That definitely hindered them. When we look ahead to game 4, do you have any lean on how this will potentially turn out?
I think that the Warriors are able to snatch one at home and bring the series back to 2-2. I think that if they don't, the series is definitely over, especially given the fact that at the very earliest, Stephen Curry could return in Game 5, but like reports are leaning towards the fact that he will be at doubtful at best for Game 5. He's going to be reevaluated on that day. So I think that the Warriors need this game to at least stretch it to 6 and have any shot at Steph Curry coming back.
Honestly, my gut says I think the Warriors might also win game 4. And with Rudy Gobert kind of after his Wilt Chamberlain game, scoring 9, 5, and 9, I don't know if I can really trust Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards to go 2 on whatever the Warriors might present with their back against the wall to win game 4. But I did want to say and bring up, this whole thing about Steph Curry. And I believe the report is that he's going to come back for game 6. How confident are we that they can actually make it? Like, I know we're both picking the Warriors potentially to win in game 4, but what is the confidence level that this team can actually get to a game 6?
Yeah, I think that we're both picking them more in the fact that we might want the series to go a little bit longer and see Stephen Curry return, but Minnesota has a very realistic chance of winning game 4, especially with the way they played today. They didn't play particularly well. I think they had, like 42 points at halftime and like ramped it up in the second half. But neither team played very well offensively in the first half. Jonathan Kuminga was like the bright spot for the Golden State Warriors on offense. Feels like he's their second best offensive player after Jimmy Butler now that Stephen Curry is down. But man, like how many times are you going to get 30 points out of him? I don't know that that's going to happen every single game, and you can't really blow a game where he has 30 points, especially given the way that the game was going towards the end. I think they had anywhere from a 5-7 lead down the stretch, and Minnesota was just able to overcome it between Julius Randle playing well and Anthony Edwards hitting some big time shots then.
Yeah, and he was good in game 2 as well. I don't know how much confidence I have in this team either. The reason my gut says it is just because I think this Warriors team will definitely be able to scrape by one more win without Steph Curry, but that's it. That's max. I think they go into game 6 down 3-2 and then let the chips fall where they may for the rest of this series. I need to see game 4 before I can make a real definitive conclusion about whether or not this Golden State Warriors can actually compete against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I want to move to the rest of the NBA really quick before we get out of here. Which team that is down 2-1 in the playoffs are you most confident in right now?
After today, probably the Celtics, just because of the fact that the way they're dominating these games. Obviously, we saw the first 2 games where they blew 20-point leads, but they've had at least 20-point leads in all 3 of their games, and they probably should be up 3-0 if it weren't for some like very large chokes between game 1 and game 2. So if I had to make a lean on who I think is probably the best team that's down 2-1 right now, it'd probably be the Celtics.